took a chance and sold up and gave away everything that I own to experience some much needed adventure in my life. So come along and experience it with me every step of the way on my journey around the waterways of the UK and through life on the Narrowboat Cruising and Lifestyle channel. Good day YouTubers. Today's video, first thing is we're facing the wrong way. We've just come down the Wendover Arm, or back down the Wendover Arm. I didn't bother filming it, but when I came out at the other end I turned right, facing the way that we've already been, so I've got to go to the nearest winding hole, turn round, and then we're going to head off towards Aylesbury, and I'll show you that. On my way back down the Wendover Arm, where I'd already filmed it, I didn't set any cameras up, so instead of turning left onto new ground, I turned right and moored up for a few days. The winding hole's not too far away, it's just the other side of the bridge that's coming up here. Looks like we're in for some half decent weather. When I turn round and we're going in the right direction, we've got to go through 6 locks, all pretty close together. The winding hole is right where that GRP cruiser is. Got all that room and it's parked right in the middle of the winding hole. So I've had to come a bit short and I'm poking the front of Aitch into the bushes, or I wouldn't be able to swing the back around. I've just noticed up there on the right in the trees there was a heron watching me, and as I went past he said, "You're crap at turning the boat, mate." I'm like the Dr. Dolittle of the canals. I can understand what all these animals say, you see. Right, we're more or less back to where we started now, and before we go any further I'd like to show you a bit of the town of Tring. Tring is an old market town that was mentioned all the way back in the Domesday Book of 1086. As you can see, it's still a market town to this day. It's one of those places that looks like it hasn't changed for hundreds of years. The only thing that's changed here is there's no traffic. Except, I suppose, for the odd carriage or horse and cart, like you can see going up the hill. Zoological Museum is what we'd call nowadays a natural history museum. Tring has got its own natural history museum and the admission is free. This is the collection of Lionel Walter Rothschild. The Rothschilds owned most of the land around Tring in the 1800s and early 1900s. Lionel Rothschild was more interested in science and the animals than banking, and this is what got him disinherited, and all the estates around Tring was given to his younger brother instead. The Natural History Museum was left to the town as well as a lot of other stuff, including these memorial gardens, which is beautiful and remembers the dead from the wars, the world wars. I think the Rothschilds eventually left Tring because they needed a bigger one of these to count all their money. Another interesting fact about Tring: George Washington, the first president of the United States, great-grandfather, was born and brought up in Tring before he emigrated to the US. We'll have a quick look at the church of St. Peter and St. Paul before we go back to the canals. Some parts of this church date back to the 13th century, but most of what you can see now is from the 15th to 16th century. It's beautiful, isn't it? These old churches are so lovely and peaceful. Just look at the coloured glass windows. Beautiful. For me, that is what this life is all about. Taking my time and looking at all the towns and villages that I go by. Don't get me wrong, cruising along the canal is lovely and relaxing, and that can be beautiful, but just looking at all the places that you go through and learn a bit about your heritage, your country, oh, I love it. Right, we're back up to the turn off for the Wendover arm, but this time we're not going to turn left, we're going to go straight across down the locks. So I'm going to moor up on this lock landing. Directly to the right hand side of the lock there's a dry dock which does blacking and other boat repairs. I think it's called Bulbourne Dry Dock. There's a wide beam coming up in the lock, so I'm just going to wait here. They seem to have enough crew and I don't want to get in the way. Because of the amount of boats that's moored up around me here, I've come off the lock landing and moved forward a bit so that this wide beam can get through. Lovely. There's another boat waiting to come in the lock, the other side, so the crew from that boat is going to help me get through, which is handy. Oh mate, alright. What's that? Oh. How many people say that? A load. A lot of people don't get it. The other boat has just told me that the Aylesbury arm is going to be closed from the 1st of November to more or less Christmas. I'd have time to race all the way down the end to Aylesbury and then race all the way back, but that's not the point, that's not the way that I like to cruise. I like to take my time and have a look around, like I said earlier. Thank you. See you later. I might see you down the other. Here's a CRT map showing the stoppages. Currently we are where it says Marsworth locks. That's a bit of a disappointment. looks like I'm not going to be going down to Aylesbury this time around. I'll have to save it for another year. There's a lock volunteer setting up the next lock, so I'll just float about here for a while. I've just seen this over here on the left. Must be where they trickle some water down into the pound. That's if it's needed, of course. Makes everything so much easier with these lock volunteers. They're worth their weight in gold to people like me. Thank you very much. There's a boat coming towards me in the pound, so hopefully that means the lock gate's open and ready for me on the next one. Alright. It's not only open, there's a lock volunteer there as well. Fantastic. I don't know about you other boaters out there, but I find it so much easier going down in locks. For those of you that are not boaters, what it means is you can step straight off of the boat. You don't have to climb up. The only thing you have got to watch is when the boat's dropping, it doesn't come down on the sill. There's a nice little view of the, I think it's a lock cottage, but we'll get a closer one in a minute. Thank you very much. The lockie's come down on his bike and he's beat me to the lock. I'm not used to being spoilt like this. There's a little family going to get involved on this one, and they're going to shut the lock gates. There they are. Thank you. The little girl there loved helping out. Charming to see. Much better than playing about with computer games in your bedroom, I'd say. Get them out in the fresh air. You can't beat it. Over there to the left hand side of the locks, you can see the beginnings of Marsworth Reservoir. The weather's not looking too promising now, and it started off so well. Oh, mate, all right. Yeah, there's another little family on this lock learning all about it, and I think they're going to be getting involved as well with the lock gates and such. They helped open the gates.
Thank you for your help.
Oh, that's okay. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Ah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, mate. That's safe.
I'm not sure, but I think there's one more lock left for me today before I'm all up. There's a boat coming up in this one, so I'll just pull over onto the lock landing, out of the way. I've had comments in the past saying that I'm getting into bad habits only opening one lock gate when going in and out of locks. But if you look at all these lock volunteers on this flight of locks, they've only opened one lock gate, and they're from the CRT. All that I can say about that is that they're fully trained up, and I think that they should know best. Here we go. We're going to get wet. Here's a better view of Marsworth Reservoir. This bit coming up, you can actually moor on both sides of the canal. So I'm going to go over to the right hand side here. Just as I moored up, something quite funny but a bit frightening happened to me. I'll show you a bit of it and explain. I've just run as fast as I could and jumped on this lock gate to get out of the way of this lot. So, if anyone saw an old boy sprinting down the towpath on the Grand Union with a load of cows trotting behind him, that was me. They can't get back into their field, so they're going out onto the main road now to cause more mayhem. I'll see you next time.